Hello, girls, gays, and theys, and welcome back to the Queer and podcast. I'm your host, Nastasia, and I use she, her pronouns. And today, I'm here with two very special guests, Tsetsa, yes, she's one guest, and she uses she, her pronouns. And my other guest is Sebastian, who uses he, him pronouns. So, today, we are going to start off this podcast with short introductions of both of our guests, and then I'm going to ask a few questions. And yeah, basically, this podcast is going to focus on queerness in Serbia, what it's like being queer in Serbia, since it's a very openly homophobic country, and I want to share different experiences of queer people that I'm close with. So here's an introduction of our first guest, Sebastian.
Hi guys, my name's Sebastian. I use pronouns he, him, and I've been volunteering at Pride Info Center for the last 6 months, and I've been one of the main volunteers this year at Belgrade Pride.
Okay, and now our next guest, Tsetsa.
Hello, hello. My name is Tsetsa. I have been volunteering at Pride since the beginning of this year, and I also volunteered for the Pride. I'm also a student, and I like coming here at Pride Info Center, and that's it for now.
Okay, Slay. So yeah, a little like brief in like about Pride Info Center. It's like a center that we have here in Belgrade in Serbia, and it's open to queer people, allies, and people volunteer here, people work here, and we make friendships. And we just had Belgrade Pride 2 days ago. So yeah, I'm gonna ask a few questions to the guests, and then yeah, basically just share your experiences and just be like very laid back vibes. Okay, so my first question is, what is it like being gay in Serbia? Like knowing that people here don't accept it, that society views it as something that's wrong. Like what is it? I don't know. What is it like? I guess. Who wants to? Okay.
This is a very broad question you asked, actually, because the state of the LGBTQ plus community here is not very good. We're not very accepted by the society, and we're quite orthodoxal. So we're more like some countries that are secular, like Turkey, and we're not as liberal as some other European countries and, of course, America. Experience of being gay or having a queer identity here in Serbia is very tricky because there are, of course, multiple experiences. My personal experience is that I've always known I'm gay, but my general way of expressing is very heteronormative, so I didn't have any trouble growing up. Like people bullying me because they thought I'm gay or I'm not gay because I look pretty straight. So that kind of helped me throughout my growing up, but it also sucks because people have to conceal their sexuality, their identity, because they will be severely judged by general society, even from the early days of like elementary or high school, when like, especially in elementary school, there's a tradition here where kids are actually being abused because of like their childlike personality traits that are connected to being gay, like cheerfulness, playfulness, being bold, and that really is not appropriate because like kids with undefined sexual identities are actually being put in a box and bullied for something they don't even comprehend at that point of their life.
Okay, so basically, it's like there's a lot of harmful stereotypes still in place in Serbia of like typical like this is how a gay person acts and like talks or whatever, that are especially being like taught to kids. Because I've said this before, but I think that hatred is something that's taught, and that if you grow up to be very homophobic, it's kind of difficult for you to grow out of that because that's what you've known your whole life, and it's kind of like indoctrination in a way. But I get that. Like I feel like definitely in Serbia it's a big issue where like bullying starts early on, even from like your family. If your family realizes that you're acting too quote unquote gay, or like there's no way of them accepting it, and also like society accepting it, so you get bullied from your friends, your family, classmates, etc. Okay, same question for my other guest.
Well, I will start at the beginning. When I was a child, I looked tomboyish, and people used to bother me about it. I had friends, but most of my friends were boys. And at the start, they would bother me and be rude to me. Um, but when they realized I can play with them, everything was okay with them. But in general, the whole elementary school experience was um, tough because uh, they would actually call me a lesbian before I even realized like what that meant, what even sexual attraction was, and that kind of hurt me because I was a kid. And later on in high school, it was also problematic because there was like this air of silence. We would just be like not talking about stuff like that. Maybe with the closest friends, you can kind of explore your sexuality and talk about it, but it was all like hidden, which is the aspect that I hate the most here because like our experience is basically hiding and we are acting like some, I don't know, infiltrated group. And we cannot, up until when we come out finally, when we have like some support system, we cannot do much about it. Also at university, it depends on which university you go to. Some of the like humanities are more accepting because people there who go there are more accepting in general. But I went to and I'm still going to very male dominated area. I study engineering, and like it's very tough because also you cannot talk about your sexuality, especially if you're a guy. If you're a girl, nobody would believe you like that you're gay. But if you're a guy, I had like I've known people, and I have a friend who was like, but not bullied because it's a university. People usually don't care that much as in high school and elementary school, but some aspects of, I guess, our lives are not accepted, and we can see that and we can feel it like when we have conversations and so on. But the way we get accustomed to all of that is just like find our communities and like friends. And one of the places when you can actually find communities, fortunately, Pride Info Center. I wish there were more places where we were accepted. And also, thanks to the internet, we can kind of connect with our, friends in the city. But yeah, it's not easy. And especially, it's not easy. For example, for me, it was hard in my family. My family is not accepting, is still not accepting. I have been out for like 10 years, and it's still like a struggle. I cannot talk about my I guess love life in general. I would not talk about to my parents about my sex life, but I would talk about if I have a girlfriend or not. But I cannot. So that's tough for me as well because I'm close to them. So that's that. I mean, there are a lot of small things that are also um, problematic here. It depends whether you pass as a heterosexual person or not. If you look common, if you look, as they put it, normal, you will probably have a better experience. But if you look in any way gay, so to speak, you will have problems almost on a daily basis. So that's that.
Okay. Yeah, I've noticed the whole like if you look gay, you tend to have more issues and more people like on the street are like saying mean things and like sometimes like there's extreme cases where like people will beat you up or stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like for women or girls, it's different than for guys because I think for women, it's normal for us to be close to our girlfriends. Like, it's normal for us to like hug our friends and like hold hands or whatever. But it's like, if guys are holding hands, then they must be gay. And I think that there's definitely a difference between how like lesbians or like bisexuals, like people who women loving women are treated versus like gay men or like bisexual men in Serbia. I think you could probably get away with more things as like a lesbian than as a gay man because you like society is just like it functions that way where it's like girls aren't gay, and but like if you're holding hands with a guy, then that's gay already. And I think that also has to do with like toxic masculinity, because guys can't have feelings and guys can't um, express their feelings. Guys can't cry or whatever. And I think that Serbia is still very much behind on all of those aspects. So that's quite unfortunate. And yeah, I don't know. But my next question is, do you think that like like our generation, or like I guess like younger generation Gen Z, is different in terms of like less homophobic, or do you, because I do think that there's still like a lot of people who are young and homophobic, but do you think it's like changing and being a little bit more accepting, or do you think it's still very much rooted in like homophobia?
I would just like to go back like a few sentences when you explained like that maybe as a lesbian you could do more things here that will like pass as having fun or being like more of a joke. But I wouldn't say so because like girls are different. They perceive like something that is lesbian truly as something that is a joke. Like two girls kissing is like a challenge, or two girls hugging. It's just having fun, not as a sexual identity of those two. So the gays and the lesbians and the bisexuals are in a tough place, but trans and non-binary people are even in a more tougher place here, which really sucks. And let me answer to the second question about are new generations more affirmative to being gay, being queer, or someone else being queer? I think so, yes. Why? Because our country is heading in a more progressive way regarding LGBTQ plus rights. Maybe not in a legal or medical way. Still, it's an everlasting fight here, and the situation is not looking as good. But we are fighting every day. Us volunteers, everyone involved in Pride. We have also different organizations outside of Belgrade Pride Info Center. Today is 11th of September. 2 hours ago, I was here, and on the other hand, some small kids, I would say first or second year of high school, flipped the fingers to us, started like showing like cross signs, and in that way, I'm like, okay, maybe we are progressing as a generation, but still, we're a long way to go. So there is a little bit of improvement when you compare it to like 90s, 2000s, when we actually had our first Pride, which was very bloody. It was 2001. Now there is improvement, but there's still a long way to go for society to be at least at a normal level of respecting basic human rights of everyone.
The second question. Also, I also wanted to get back to the first, to finish the first thing with being lesbian. Yeah, some aspects are easier, but like our identity is denied. And for example, if when I had like girlfriends, it would I would have situations with guys I've met, and sometimes even with friends, like they would be joking or actually literally asking for us to have a threesome or something like that, which is not like, it's not so, I wouldn't say that's the toughest thing because it is not, but it is bothering you like on a daily basis, and when you think about it, that someone is actually viewing you as just a sexual object and part of their fantasy. But the other, the questions about the younger generation versus the older ones. I'm actually not part of the Gen Z. I'm a millennial, and I think millennials are more afraid still, because they have like they remember the time when it was even more dangerous to be gay. They remember the first Pride and stuff like that, and they also are more hidden. As I was like talking about that, the mode of hiding in plain sight, and it is for a younger generation because of, I guess, the representation in the media, because here in Serbia most of the media we consume is actually from the outside, We also have our media, but even our media is getting more progressive. And I don't necessarily think that because somebody would say that's like propaganda or something. It's not that. It's just that our lives are being more shared, aired, and seen, and we can be heard now. And also with those organizations we have here that are working for like 10, 20, or 30 years here in Serbia and in former Yugoslavia, uh, they are working on like getting out queer artists, queer spokespeople to kind of be part of the general, I guess, the general public. So there is some spaces for us. We're still limited because, for example, I know someone told me there is the organization for making plays here in theater plays, and they wanted to kind of play those plays for children in high school, and those plays are not vulgar or anything. They're just regular, like growing up stories about LGBT people. And most of the schools, they don't even answer to the offer, like if they want to see the theater play or something. So here it's still a taboo because parents and the older generations, like Gen X and boomers, are still very entrenched in that, like, well, hatred, and not just hatred, like ignorance, because like ignorance breeds hatred. It kind of fuels each other. So yeah, I think younger generations are much more open, and actually I have more friends that are younger, that are out and queer, than I have those who are like my age or older, because as I said, they're usually hiding or they're not expressing their sexuality as much. So yeah, that's that. Except those who are already like out, and it's their, I guess, they're activists or something. So
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you said. And I guess I have like a similar question. There was this like whole controversy that happened I think a few months ago. I don't know exactly when, where there was supposed to be a section in the 8th grade biology book that was talking about like different sexualities and gender identity. I think it like mentioned like queerness in like a very like vague way. Like it just kind of was acknowledging that that exists, and it was like very like a lot of right wing like politicians and people were automatically like saying like, oh, this is the propaganda, like what else do they want, like now they're teaching it to our kids, they're going to turn our kids gay or whatever. And I think that that mindset is still very much ingrained in our culture here. And so I guess just like, do you guys have any thoughts about like everything that happened with the whole like I don't know, like queer representation and it's like importance, but it's also like our representation and our voices are being silenced because they're refused because they view it as like a propaganda kind of.
This is a very tough question because it has like multiple layers. It is viewed as a propaganda. Some people, out of not having enough knowledge, not educating themselves, have an opinion that we are being paid by foreign governments or some foreign private organizations to spread, how they call it, LGBTQ plus propaganda, to make money, to confirm all of the society to being gay or trans or demonized as they say it. That's one part. So there are people that are accepting, but not even in a minimal way. They're like, I'm fine, or I don't have an opinion, but let them keep the stuff they do in their like four walls. That's very common here. There are of course people that deny existence of certain groups inside of the queer community, including our president, unfortunately, because he had a statement about a month ago where he actually denied the existence of non-binary people. He called the trans people a part of the woke ideology and movement, and he denied signing any laws regarding same-sex marriage, adopting kids in a same-sex marriage, or as they call it, same-sex unions, because marriage here also other countries have the same problem, is perceived as a holy union or a union legally viewed as a union between a man and a woman, a cis man and a cis woman. So we're fighting for our rights every day. We're trying to be seen because I think visibility is one of the best ways to like fight for your rights and actually show people I'm here, this is me, I'm a normal member of society who can actually contribute with my skills for this society to grow. So my sexuality, my gender expression shouldn't be a vital thing for them to see and assess in their heads, like if I can contribute to the society or not. So we're like fully normal members of the society who can actually live normally and do everyday stuff. But yeah, that's why we hold Belgrade Pride. That's why we, after 2001, that was literally a bloodshed. It was slaughter. Like people were severely injured. We gathered courage. It took 8 years, but from 2009 to now, we continuously fight it, and now we have some basic form of pride where police is actually normally functioning with us, where they are not making trouble, where we do not have large amounts of right-wing groups that are calling for violence. But still, it is better, but we're still facing many issues. And the statement of the president I mentioned like a few minutes ago, that is something that's very detrimental to the trans community, especially, and the non-binary people, because he literally denounced their existence. And we all know that queer people face physical violence and mental disorders at some point of their life, not necessarily as something that naturally occurs, which is a possibility, but something that is a consequence of constant bullying, oppression, and not being able to be themselves in their workplace, school place, home, wherever. So yeah, we have a problem. We are fighting, and we should fight, but the situation is not really good. But we will not give up.
Yeah, concerning the books and the education system, well, the problem is those people and politicians have too much influence and too much power on what it's written in the books, because the books themselves are something that, especially biology books, are science. And I hate the fact that those people have a say in something that is literally part of our empirical evidence about nature and about how the world is. So I think it's a shame, and it's very bad that those actors can interfere with education of children, because those things do exist. Whether they're good or bad, it doesn't literally matter. Trans people exist, gay people exist, variations in like human biology exist, and not just human, in every species on the planet. So it's absurd that they have a say in what goes into the books, because children will eventually be faced with people who are gay or trans, and they will see them, and there will be like unnecessary hate, misunderstanding, and problems. So I think that's something that has to obviously change in Serbia, but we are not close. We're not even close, as the Pride Parade slogan was this year. So yeah, I think there should be like more education about this matters. I think more people from the scientific community should not be ashamed to have their voices be heard, and those people who are from actually the university and that are bigots and that are non-scientific and non-empirical, they should not have a say, because like evidence, the scientific evidence says otherwise, it's on our side. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. And I think the right wing here has too much say in almost everything. So even they try to kind of get uh, into the laws concerning women's rights, and so, and people like they infringe on our like the rights of minorities in general. So yeah, it sucks, but I hope it will change, and I hope things we are doing here will have an impact in the future.
Yeah. Regarding what was said about like the whole biology thing, I think that that definitely is like a prime example of the difference between like Serbia and America, because at least in my experience from like the education in the US, even though the education system is like really bad, we talk about queerness. We have open conversations about gay people existing, trans people existing. It's not really like a debate. Like everyone knows like, yeah, queer people exist and that's fine. Like I took AP Psych in high school and that was like mentioned. But I also think that it's really just trying to get our visibility out there, our representation out there, so that people, like kids especially, can learn from a young age not to spread hate and not to hate people because they are different, and not to hate people because of their sexuality or gender identity differences, etc. And I think that that's like a basic human right thing that we should have, and I think it's not propaganda, it's just simple, like we just want to be valued and seen, even if it's like, and kids learning about queerness from a young age isn't going to turn them gay or queer. It's just going to have them be more accepting. It like sexuality is not something that you can like, it's not like infectious. You don't become gay, you are always gay, but it just takes like time and energy to realize. So yeah, but I guess I'm just gonna wrap everything up now. I'm just gonna guess, I don't know, that's kind of it. I appreciate you guys for sharing your thoughts and experiences. If you guys have any last things you want to say. Okay.
I would like to thank Nastasia for having us. She's an amazing person, and she actually volunteered with us this year at Belgrade Pride. This is my first Pride like ever, and generally I explored the whole queer community this year, like in April. And these 6 months have actually been like generally a really nice experience, despite not having basic human rights, despite homophobia that's raging here, and generally queerphobia. So the things are not good, but we are fighting, and we will continue to fight for our rights, because that's the only way that we can actually achieve something. So we have to be visible, we have to express ourselves, we have to be there, and continue living bravely.
Period. Do you have any last words, last thoughts?
Long live Pride. And we are, if there is such a thing as the right side of history, we are on the right side of history. That's something I believe in. I want to thank Nastasia. It was wonderful of having her here at the Pride Info Center this, I guess, this summer, and the start of, I guess, our Pride this year. So, and at the end of our Pride, I don't know why I said at the start of our Pride, but like for the Pride Week, it was nice volunteering together. This was also my first Pride, and it was wonderful. And I regret not going to the Pride earlier, because like I could have gone like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, but I didn't. And I'm happy I made the decision to come, and I gathered the courage to come here. So that's that.
Amazing. Thank you guys. This is also my first Serbian Pride. I've been to LA Pride last summer. Like I've been to LA Pride twice, and I just think, well, it was my first Serbian Pride, and I was like my favorite Pride ever. And yeah, it was great getting to meet you guys and getting to know you guys. And now I have to leave because I'm going to America. So sad. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Živo Pride!
That's right. That's right. Oh my god. Okay, that's it. Bye. Thank you.